Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer for Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And I'm Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director for geekvibesnation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new Video Attic new release roundup. If you're new here, first of all, welcome. What we do here is we go back and forth and we talk about the latest home video releases, some good, some bad, some so bad that like they're like Candyman 3 level terrible.
Oh,
Trigger.
oh.
Uh, but I'm gonna kick this party off with one that I had never heard of, but was kind of a fun discovery. So that is Making Mr. Right. Now, have you seen this or have you heard of this?
Yeah, I actually covered it in one of my standalone Kino videos
Okay.
for I believe, the March titles. But yeah, I saw this and I'm interested to hear your take on it.
Yeah. So this was a wild one. This was like one that I could definitely see like being kind of a cult favorite. So this comes from the director of Desperately Seeking Susan. And it's a weird 80s rom-com about a career-driven woman, but she wants to have it all. She's an 80s gal. It's like and the gender politics is very much of the 80s, but
Yeah.
she's not complete because she needs a man, right?
Mhm.
So this brings her into this kind of a very eccentric scientist played by John Malkovich, who is making a robot who is also played by John Malkovich. So things get weird. um, so yeah, I found this movie to be pretty engaging, even though I think there are elements to the plot that I feel are just slightly underdeveloped. There's definitely like threads without spoiling anything that I just feel they don't really like develop enough for that. The ending is kind of like I like how it ends. Again, I'm trying to be careful not to spoil it, but I just don't think it's set up well enough. Still, it's over the top enough and strange. It just kept me glued, and I think this movie is also very quotable. I'm actually really surprised that I had never even heard of this movie before. Um, like John, I mean, I love John Malkovich. Oh my gosh, it's not that the other actors aren't great in this. I just think John Malkovich kind of just steals the movie, which is fine. And it sort of made me think of like being John Malkovich,
Mhm.
especially
Yeah.
that scene where everybody's John Malkovich. It's like Malkovich, Malkovich,
Mhm.
Malkovich. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really had a fun time listening to the commentary track. Like I kind of like had to squeeze two viewings of this movie in a day, and so I could watch it and then watch it with the commentary track, which is really entertaining. And again, I kind of didn't mind a double view, which that I think should tell you something. Um, for those that didn't catch your March thing, can you sum up what you were thinking about with this movie?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't mind repeating myself. I do it all the time on this show. But yeah, it's a very interesting movie. I do have some problems with it just because, like you said, that ending, I'm just like, okay, but like, really, how does this work and stuff? Like,
Right.
kind of like you're just like you're like, this is a bizarre movie, but it has kind of like a fun energy. It's not really a role I expected to see Malkovich in, but then I was just like, okay, that's fun. Like, I like that he's indulging in more of his like zany like tendencies, like especially as the robot version of himself. But my favorite performance is Laurie Metcalf as the beleaguered woman who
Right.
is trying to date the real scientist person who just like it is not her life, I guess, just because she is just she's so put upon, but like she's hilarious in this.
And she's so young in that like I had kind of had to do like a double take,
Mm.
because I think like the earliest thing I've seen her in was like Uncle Buck, which was I think maybe late 80s, early 90s, and then that was right on the cusp of Roseanne,
Mm-hmm.
around that same time. But yeah, so this is like 87. So yeah, no, it's fun, but it's flawed. I love just how John Malkovich delivers stuff. He's like, there was one line that kind of stuck in my head, and I'm gonna botch it now, but he's like, he kissed me on my mouth or something like that. And it's just like the way he delivers it, it's just like I love it so much. So yeah, it's a fun little discovery. Again, if you're going in just expecting like a dumb, fun 80s rom-com, that it delivers. It's just it's a little shaggy plot wise, but if you go
Yeah,
with them, I think you'll have fun.
absolutely. I I even though I do have issues with it, I think people should check it out just because it's just a bizarre remnant of the 80s.
Hmm.
And speaking of that, I am going to kind of compliment that pretty decently. But first, I have to announce I am breaking new ground for the Video Attic. This is you don't know this unless you paid attention to the spreadsheet and put the pieces together in your mind. For the first time, I am covering an import release, a non-American release. But I will say that the titles I will be covering today, I'm covering two different ones. They are from a label that are region free. So if you do import these, they will play in your American player, or if you have a region free player, you don't have to worry about anything. You can just enjoy any movie around the world anytime. But I just want to start out. This is from Via Vision from Australia. This is the Michael J. Fox collection,
Hmm.
which includes three movies: The Secret of My Success, The Hard Way, and For Love or Money. And so it has just kind of a swing case here. Each film gets a disc. I actually have written a review for Love or Money in the past for the Kino Classics release.
Hmm.
And actually, all three of these have been put out by Kino Classics here in the United States. But I did not own The Hard Way or The Secret of My Success yet. So I was like, okay, let me try this one out. And plus, I always appreciate shelf-friendly packaging. Instead of three releases, I need every single inch I can get. So I was just like, okay, I'm game. So this release, I would say it's not like tangibly like different from the individual Kino Classics releases. The label has seemingly used the same older masters that are in really good shape from what I can tell. And so they're not listed as like a new 2K or 4K scan, but just as like when I watched the original or the Kino disc of For Love or Money, it looked really nice. It looked pretty much the same here. All three transfers run at a pretty high bit rate. And it's just like I would have believed it was like a 2K scan if you had told me that. They look really good. And these all come from like either the late 80s or early 90s. The only real difference is if you are a special features lover, you should maybe stick with the Kino disc just because they each have an audio commentary where there's only a theatrical trailer for each of these on each of these discs. But if you're looking for more of a value price, shelf friendly packaging, this one's a good one. And these films are really interesting. And I was especially excited to delve into these again because there was just an Apple TV Plus documentary about Michael J. Fox that was released that it really makes you want to like kind of explore beyond just like Back to the Future and like the bigger hits of Michael J. Fox. Because I love him so much. He's like one of my favorite performers, especially from that era, but even in general, he's just such a warm, interesting presence. And just seeing him play variations on a type, but playing like different types of characters throughout these three films is really fun. I'll probably provide a link for my For Love or Money review in the description, but just kind of like an overview of that. And now when he plays a concierge who's kind of dreaming of a bigger life of owning his own hotel, and he's like the type of person who can get anything for anyone who like stays at his hotel. And there's like a romance with Gabrielle Anwar, who people might know from Burn Notice. That's where I learned of her, but she's a really great actress, and she plays like kind of like a escort. And there's some lack of development for her there, but I still really find her charming, and just like their kind of dynamic and his scrappiness in that narrative is really fun. But the other two movies I hadn't really seen before. Well, I probably had seen The Secret of My Success since it used to play on HBO like 80 times like a day, but I didn't really remember it from when I watched it. And that's more of a story of he's playing like a young like I'll just call him a country bumpkin, but he's not really. He's a guy aspiring to kind of get off the farm and make it a success in kind of the city life and stuff. And he wants to do it at a rapidly fast pace. So even though he is a male boy, he poses as like an executive, and he kind of like fakes it till he makes it into like this high powered position. And there's a lot of like him trying to like maintain his cover, and there's also once again a romance with a beautiful woman, this time played by Helen Slater, which also, if you get the Kino disc, from what I researched, you get a new interview with Helen Slater on that disc. So I was a little bit disappointed not to be able to see that, but the movie itself, it's pretty entertaining and just like a really fun Michael J. Fox time. The last one, kind of a little bit different from these two, is just The Hard Way, which he plays with James Woods, who is not the best person as a person, but he's starred in a lot of great movies, and this is another really fun one where Michael J. Fox plays an actor who is trying to shake his nice guy image, and he wants to kind of go like on a ride along with a police officer played by James Woods, who's like in the middle of like, he gets tied up into like a murder investigation, and like this like Hollywood actor who's trying to change his image and shake things up. He's kind of like getting on his nerves and getting in his way. It's kind of like an unlikely buddy cop movie, and once again, it's a really fun dynamic. And just these are just three really like warm movies to me. Like just that it makes me feel good. Like they're kind of comfort watches, and like I said, Michael J. Fox just kind of radiates that. He's done that in other movies like Doc Hollywood and all kinds of stuff. He's the master of this, and I'm sad that he doesn't like have the capability to like do that as much just because of his uh, illness. But he's one of our greats, and this collection like encapsulates three like really fun movies. And like I said, it's pretty value priced. You can import this from the Via Vision website. There's also plenty of great like stores in the US that you can, if you don't want to like ship it from Australia. There's like a Diabolic DVD, Grindhouse, Atomic Movie Store. I just put in a pretty big order at Orbit DVD, which is for a bunch of like Arrow limited editions because they weren't released in the US. So importing is your friend. There's a lot of great releases out there that just aren't going to be released in the US, or maybe they're released in a different configuration, which I'll talk about with my next release. So if you like Michael J. Fox and you want like kind of just like a condensation of like his films, this is a pretty good one. I believe right now, based on the exchange rate that I could pick up, like I believe this is about like $25. So that's not too bad. So fun collection. I wish there was some special features, but it's just a really great selection of movies.
And the Australian currency is dollary dues.
Is that true?
No, that's a Simpsons reference. But fun fact.
I thought so, but I was just like, I don't want to laugh at this currency, and then people be like,
no.
Really.
Fun fact: they actually had a unsuccessful attempt to change the name of their currency to dollary dues.
Dang it.
Yeah, because they have a great sense of humor. I love that. But yeah, no, that sounds amazing. Fun little anecdote. Michael J. Fox was speaking at Ship University, which was not far from me, and there is a local ice cream place that's really popular that he made a surprise visit. And unfortunately, I wasn't there, but they said he was super nice, signed autographs for people. This was like maybe before his diagnosis, but yeah, it's. I really want to see that documentary too because I'm hearing really great things. So I'm gonna like change this up a little bit. My next title is Fist of the Condor. So,
okay.
and kind of just recently, it just came up on our YouTube channel today, but this video will be out a little bit later. I have an interview with the star, Marco Zaror. It was very nice. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but I'll also link that in the description, of course. So this is a lower budget, but pretty epic martial arts film. Again, starring Marco Zaror. John Wick fans will know he was in the latest installment. But yeah, I got to recently talk to him, and I was really like surprised to hear that like this was a huge passion project for him. And I can see, and and watching the movie, you really can see why. This movie does give him a lot of range. He's playing like essentially like two roles. The scale and scope of this movie is really, I just think like breathtaking. Like there's some really amazing shots. I think like the cinematography really gives it kind of a bigger overall feel. I will say though, I think the fighting is overall really good. The story is okay. I think the pacing is kind of what kills this movie. It is very slow and it's hard to keep completely invested, but yeah, I think Zaror does a really great job. I think like him and the other actors really do a good job of sort of keeping everything together. Again, you need some patience, but maybe that's kind of like what this is trying to teach you. Um, being patient with the movie. Like martial arts. But anyways, but yeah, again, I can totally see why Zaror really finds this meaningful. When I asked him, he's played so many really interesting movies, like Machete Kills for Robert Rodriguez, again, John Wick, tons of stuff. And I was like, what's the one character if you could bring back, if you could resurrect, or just and he's like this character, like I love this movie so much. I hope we can do a trilogy. It's certainly, without spoiling anything, I can see where, yeah, they could definitely like set this up for like a series. Yeah, it's fun. I just think that I don't know, like if I'm being really honest, I don't know if I would watch it a lot, but yeah, I can see the passion. I could see that watching the movie prior and then talking to Marco, I could really see like, yes, he was very invested in this role. Was very important to him. So check it out. I hope this, I really hope this does get a sequel. We do get a nice behind the scenes thing, which that's really good. It's got a trailer, not a lot of bonus features. A commentary track would have been nice, but yeah, it's good.
Awesome. Yeah, I there comes a point whenever we're like taking on reviewed responsibilities where sometimes I just have to say like I just need time to sleep. So that was one that I just chose not to watch, but I'll probably have to seek it out just to see how I feel about it. Because I mean, based on like your interview and stuff, sounds like a fun movie.
Yeah.
So my next release, this goes along with the Australian imports. I will say, okay, maybe you listen to me talk about the Michael J. Fox, and you're just like, it kind of seemed like maybe the Kino versions are better. Maybe why do I need to spend this money? I get that, even though I think it's a good release. But this release from Via Vision, via their imprint line, this is where I'm going to get you. This is where I'm going to get everyone, I believe, because this is an awesome release. This is the Essential Noir Collection Volume 4, and where they kind of didn't give the bet like any special features for their last release. They make up for it here because it seems like their typical Via Vision releases are kind of more kind of like budget conscious, like bare bones ish, just like good quality, but like not the frills. This is where they kind of show off on their imprint line. So I'll kind of go through these pretty quickly. I'll show them off first and then kind of talk about these as much as I can. So there's 5 films in this on 4 discs. So the first film is Rope of Sand. So I'll show that off. I don't want to go too quickly. I've noticed sometimes when I'm like moving stuff around, I'm like, I didn't even give people a chance to look at this. So I want to not rush through these. Let me take the disc out so you can see the artwork underneath. So this has Burt Lancaster in the lead role, and it also has the who plays the Invisible Man? Why am I blanking?
Claude Rains.
Yes,
Was that
Claude
also
Rains.
Peter Lorre in there?
Yeah, that's who it was. Yes, I remember when I was watching this, I was like, why does this guy's voice and look seem so? Because he has such a distinct look. That's who it was. Yeah, Peter Lorre. So the next film is Appointment with Danger. Like I said, I just want to show all these off first because it has some really nice packaging. So here's the.
It's always important to keep your appointment with danger.
Yes, because you don't want to stand up danger. That's just rude. So Alan Ladd over a body, as happens a lot in film noir. It's just Alan Ladd over a body. The next one has the man, the myth, Humphrey Bogart and the Enforcer. So we love Bogart here. You just talked about the Maltese Falcon about a month ago, whenever the 4K came out. There's his grizzled look on the disc art. And then here's the interior art. And then the final one is a two films on one disc, both featuring Ida Lupino. The first is Beware My Lovely. Have you seen this?
Yeah, sorry. I'm a big fan of this one.
Awesome. Yes, me too. I was spoiler alert. It's probably my favorite of this disc.
Nice.
And then the other one is Jennifer, which is also quite good. So I'll take this one out since it is double-sided art. So here's the Jennifer artwork here instead of just the standard artwork, since it is a double feature. But these are both under, I believe, an hour and 20 minutes. So I don't worry about the like compression or anything because it's pretty solid. So, and then it's just kind of like the slip off. I forgot. This comes on the back. It's kind of like held on with the like sticky stuff. I just kind of like turned it sideways and put it in here. So that's covering up the picture whenever you get it here, and it kind of has just like the cutouts, like the opening here. So pretty cool packaging. But how are the movies? They're good. So just going through these quickly. Rope of Sand. Whenever I'm digging into the special features, people kind of compared it to Casablanca because it shares a lot of the cast members from Casablanca, but it's pretty different. It's more of kind of like a desert adventure, but it's like centered around like a diamond, like diamond hunt, like treasure hunt for diamonds, and like trying to Burt Lancaster playing a character who's like kind of out for revenge and like he gets involved with a woman, and there's just kind of like people like just like screwing people over and like double crossing and all kinds of stuff and hiring people for nefarious means. It's just like a fun desert adventure that's pretty fun. And next, this one is such a bizarre premise. Appointment with Danger. It's not bizarre necessarily, but it involves like a postal detective. Like it's like it deals with like them trying to prevent like a huge like mail like fraud theft ring basically. And Alan Ladd's kind of like going undercover and doing noiry things like just like within this criminal organization. But it's fun to see like a postal inspector like get like such a juicy presence in a film, because it's like it doesn't seem like the sexiest occupation, but it is what it is. The Enforcer is just basically Bogart as like a detective, or maybe he's like a gun for hire type. But what's interesting about this one specifically is this is kind of what it, it's one of the movies. I don't say it's the only movie, but it's one of the movies that introduced like the concept of a hitman into the public consciousness. So like hearing like they put like a hit out or a mark or a contract, like all this like kind of lingo. Like you hear people like, what do they mean by a contract? I was like, what are you talking about? But then I realized like hitmen weren't really like known like widely like what the lingo was. So I find that very interesting. So just kind of like taking down like a group of like hitmen is basically what this one's dealing with. And Bogart, he does a pretty good job. Like it was one of his last movies as he was like closing his time out at Warner, according to the commentary, even though I'm not sure how this isn't owned by Warner, but that's what the commentary said. So the two Ida Lupino films probably are my favorite. So Beware My Lovely is pretty great. So it's like Robert Ryan, who I believe you just saw in Clash by Night, which you talked about, which I watched that one recently, and that was a time. But we can talk about that later since you talked about that so in depth. But he shows up. He's kind of like a guy who's having like blackout or like memory issues, and like he's kind of like a vagabond, and he's hired by Ida Lupino to like come do some work around the house, and then he kind of ends up trapping her inside her house, and she kind of has to try to survive his like mental instability that you don't know if like he's going to like kill her or try to do other stuff. It's just it's all over the place, but it's like very tense, especially since it's only like an hour and 10 minutes. It like goes like really quickly, and it doesn't have like a lot of fat on it, and like it's just like so like it just like you feel for her, and it's like really it's a really good movie. It's like my favorite. But Jennifer is also a really good Ida Lupino role, because that's kind of like it's a classic trope, but it's like a woman showing up to kind of act as like a caretaker to this abandoned manor, and she sees remnants of like a woman named Jennifer who she like sees little notes where like was Jennifer like she's just generically said like she's no longer around, and she's like wondering, was Jennifer killed by someone, because like there's like some paranoid writing that she finds, and then she ends up like having a love interest who she starts to wonder, is he involved in this woman's disappearance? What is exactly the mystery? So it's like kind of that typical narrative, and it's really strong as well. So all five of these films are really interesting, fun noirs, and I know we're a big fan of film noir within this one, but or within our show. So with this release specifically, what I want to highlight, so okay, these first three films, so The Enforcer, Appointment with Danger, and Rope of Sand, these have all been released on Blu-ray in the US. They were released about a decade ago from Olive Films. All three of these films have been given new 4K scans, and they look really good, especially Rope of Sand, but all of them look really solid. Probably the weakest is Appointment with Danger, but even then there's just like a little bit of kind of like flicker, like but like overall really solid 4K scan that was conducted in 2021. Same with the other two films, but those have not been released on Blu-ray over here before. But all three of these look really great. All three of these that have been released, and every movie except Jennifer comes with an audio commentary track. And I know there's like, in our minds, we probably might compare this to like the Dark Side of Cinema series from that Kino puts out. Like they usually put out really great sets, they usually put out audio commentary and just let it rip. While I love those sets, these sets actually go a bit further by including like some really in-depth videos from like film historians, like going deep into these movies. So there's like some 20 to 35 minute videos about like these productions where you just have film historians like giving context to the feature, kind of dissecting the themes and stuff. And that's in addition to the commentary track. And then you also on, I believe it's Appointment with Danger, you also have a like 25-minute featurette the director's career. So there's some really good special features. Some films have more than one featurette dedicated to them. But then moving on to the two Ida Lupino features, these have not been released on Blu-ray. This is a worldwide debut on Blu-ray. And once again, from 4K scans, look really great. The commentary track on Beware My Lovely is by Jason Ney, who a lot of these commentary tracks are people we would see on Kino releases or Air Video releases. But it's a really good commentary track. And then there's like a I believe it's like a 15 or 20-minute featurette on Ida Lupino as an actress, in addition to that. So overall, these 5 films on these 4 discs are packed with features. They look really great with their 4K scans. They are from Australia, but they can be played in US players without modification. They'll just you just got to import it. So this is a really terrific release from the imprint label of Via Vision. I'm really interested to start collecting more from them now that I'm assured that these can be played in the US, even though I have a region free player I need to hook up. That's my own issue. But this is a really great release, and I really highly recommend it for any film noir fans.
Yeah, that's great. I love Beware My Lovely. I think that's such a weird it's so weird because it's essentially like a Christmas movie. And yeah, he just kind of wanders into her house and menaces her and then kind of just goes. And
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so bonkers, and it's who is this for? And that's not in a bad way. I love it. It's just there's not a lot there, really. I just kind of summed up the entire movie, but
it makes it extra creepy, that ambiguity. At the end, you're just whoa. Yeah.
Yeah, he just comes in and just turns her life upside down, and that tiny thread of just somebody can just come into your where you should feel the safest. Oh gosh, I love it so much. It's so good. So yeah, no, I'm glad that you reviewed that. That's awesome. I am also, well, I mean, these aren't really related, but Violent Streets is my next title, and I think that this is a label that we both really like, Film Movement. And there's the features, slipcover. So, oh, and we also get some really nice bonus stuff here. First of all, interior, and let me pop the disc out. Maybe not the most exciting image, but yeah, it's good. And we do get a booklet. I haven't showed off a booklet in a long time. I just now thought about.
Yeah, you need to cover more labels with booklets.
Right? What am I even doing with my life?
I don't know.
But yeah, with some really great essays in that. And yeah, this is another one that I had never heard of, but I'm always kind of down for a good sort of Yakuza story. And honestly, I was really expecting something very run of the mill. This has a cool cover, but I mean that's marketing, right? But I will say that the movie is greatly elevated by a really cool score, and it just has this beautiful visual flair that almost kind of reminds me of when some of these Euro movies go really hard with their a horror and giallo, where it's just very sumptuous and visual, and it's not, it's the plot is driving it, yes, but then there's also this really pulpy sort of flair to it and atmosphere. So I really appreciated that. There's one standout scene that it's raining. I'll set the scene for you. So it's raining. There is cages of chickens everywhere. Like that's already kind of weird as hell. But then there's like this like fight that's going on, and it's so visually interesting. And I think this is paced really well. Everything you can tell is kind of thought out in a really like good way. And this is the same director as the film that you just talked about. Was it last week? Samurai Wolf. Um, have you seen this?
I'm like 30 minutes into it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think I gave anything away though, but yeah. So it's really good. I'm excited to see what you think of the ending, which I think is like maybe a little divisive. I will say there's a slight trigger warning. There is a like I guess transcoded person in this that is like the villain, and it seems really reductive, and there's a whole kind of debate on what's good representation. And I think now that we have so much like representation of trans people that like even having like a villain is fine, but back then that's all people saw, so that's kind of shitty. So just be aware of that. I still liked it. I mean, this is something that we talk about a lot, which is I think you can enjoy media that is still maybe outdated in some of its views, but
Mhm.
to me it's not so egregious that I want to just throw the whole thing out. So, but I just want to mention that if that's something that's you find maybe like upsetting or something, just warning. But I think it's good. I think it is such a interesting sort of take on like a Yakuza crime film. Again, it's just so gorgeous looking. And yeah, I really appreciated that. So yeah, check that out. And I will also link the Samurai Wolf movies. Um, and that way, if you want to like make I guess so there's a one and two. So if you want to make it like a triple bill with the same director, you'll be all set. So definitely, I
Yeah.
think checking out.
Yeah, I'm glad Film Movement Classics decided to like revamp these Gosha movies because I had never seen any of them, but they've been a real fun ride so far, and I look forward to finishing up that one for sure. Um, moving on. Okay, so the first two films were my only like multi-film sets, so hopefully I'll kind of be able to calm down a little bit. But so my next one is from MBD. This is from their Rewind collection, and this is LA Wars. So this one is kind of more in the camp that I know our producer Andre doesn't believe in this because I saw a tweet from them yesterday about not believing in so bad it's good because like if it's good it's good, so it's a good movie. So just going on that, to me this is not, I would not say this is a good movie. Like but other people will probably find this to be like so bad it's good or just to be good. But I understand the intention behind this, but I'll get into that in a second. Uh, so so here's the fold out poster that usually comes with the first printing of Rewind titles. Uh, so yeah, this is a good release for a film that I did not really enjoy that much. Just because it's a very low budget action movie, which I appreciate like how it was able to create what it did on such a small budget. I believe they said it was like $160,000 maybe. And like, but it looks good. Like they have like exploding cars and like shootouts and everything. So they like, and they like shut down like I believe like part like significant like stretches of like LA highway in certain parts. So like they were able to like pull off some impressive technical feats, but like the movie itself is just really like the most basic version of like a like kind of like renegade cop that like can't be controlled. Like you have like the like the cop like the lead character played by Victor Murdaco. He is like a cop who has been like fired at the beginning of the movie. Like he's like off on his own doing like his own thing for like probably a year or so since he's been fired. And then he kind of gets like, they need like that renegade cop who can go undercover, who will be believable in this like crime syndicate place, that because like all these crime syndicates are fighting one. There's an LA war going on. Okay, it's in the title. But you have like this character just screaming like I'm going I'm like, you're not going to keep me down. I need to do like just kind of like that like I'm not going to be chained. I need to be able to like smash skulls.
You still shoot first and ask questions later. Fuck you, Rock. They had shotguns
and stuff, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, like this is so like the most like cliche like you're out of line. He's like, I'm not out of line. You're out of line. Like that kind of like dynamic is just what the whole movie is.
And why do you always have to leave a trail of bodies everywhere you go?
Easier to follow than breadcrumbs.
That's always been your problem, Quinn. You always had to do it your way. Fuck you.
There's like the slow, cheesy sex scenes where there's like a gentle sax in the background and like slow panning of bodies and like just like bad like squib work, and it's just it's very cheesy.
Squib works during the sex scenes.
Oh yeah, no. He's like, geez, okay. You have one note villains. It's just I understand why people would like this. I should have known that this wouldn't quite be my speed. There's another Rewind title coming out, I believe, next month, which I kind of connected in my brain. Like, this seems to be the same like speed, so I passed on it just because I didn't want to like just get these movies to shit on it and be like, I own it, and then just never watch it again. So I realized this isn't for me. It has an audience, and I'm glad it got a really good release. So this comes from a 2K scan from the 16 millimeter Elements. This doesn't look great, but these are from like 16 millimeter Elements, so you kind of know what to expect. There is still some damage and softness and black crush and all the stuff you expect from a movie shot on 16 millimeter that's not like first generation source, but it looks fine, and it also sounds good. Interestingly enough, it has some like foreign language dubs, I guess, in case there's people like have like a overseas that like want like the experience of like the nostalgia of these dubs. Because I think there's like a French and Italian dub for these, along with the English audio. And this is an English production. Like I said, it's shot in LA and all that stuff. Interestingly enough, also a prominent YouTuber in the home entertainment space, Heath at Serial at Midnight, he moderates the commentary track with the director, so you get to hear one of our own like talking to a director, and like kind of asking him some interesting questions, and you get to hear that. And there's also a video version where you get to see like the video call that he was on while he was doing this, if you want to like watch it and see the director and all that stuff. And then there's also an 18-minute like filmed interview with the director, and then a 23-minute interview with the cinematographer, and then there's an array of trailers. So overall, they put a lot of care into this release, and I really like admire MVD for what they do in rescuing these hidden gems that I know some people are thrilled that they are doing. It's just not for me, but it's a really great release for fans. So LA Wars, if this sounds like for you, if you get like super stoked at the idea of like unhinged bad 80s movies, LA Wars it'll do you right, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah, and I it's a really interesting debate about like so bad it's good. I like to say so bad it's enjoyable, which I think is maybe a little more like accurate. But like, yeah, I could see myself in the right, so I got to be in the right mood for something that's really like, I love cheese, but like something that's like, I'm trying to think how I want to put this. Like, it's just, it's so sincere, but it is like, kind of face plants a little bit.
Yeah.
So, we always like to talk about really cool discoveries, things that like we had maybe never heard of or not on our radar. You were talking about some like excellent films that were being imported from Australia. This is a really cool release from Britain, but this is an American label, of course, Severin, which we love. They're amazing. They always put out really cool stuff. But so this is the Complete Comic Strip Presents Channel 4 Films. Again, I never heard of this. It was such a cool discovery. And I feel like there's probably a lot of people that maybe like have never heard of this. Like, and it's kind of weird because like I feel like I like a lot of like old British stuff. So yeah, this is basically, it's an 80s, I would say the best way to describe it was like a comedy anthology. It's different like short films. They're sort of ranging about a half hour, give or take. And I want to give a trigger warning. This goes pretty hard. The comedy is like pitch black. Like, I'll give you an example. The very first episode is like this sort of Hardy Boys. I don't know if there's something in the British equivalent to like a Hardy's Boys, but it's sort of like a pastiche of like kid detectives, and they're all like very like one note. And it, I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but like the ending is so cringy, where it's like, it's so cringy that like I'm not sure if that's the point they were trying to make, but like, holy shit, like it's just, it like puts you in a bad like kind of mindset, I guess. Like, I had to like take a beat and then watch the rest of them. But yeah, it was like super homophobic. But yeah, it's, but again, it's satirical, so I'm trying to like, I was like trying to figure out if that was sort of the point, like that was the point they were making. Like, not that I'm saying like that's great, but I think creator intent's pretty important when you're having these kind of conversations. So, and I mean, the other things are like so over the top, and there is a very political sort of bent to these, that I think made, once I kind of got the beat of the show, it made me a little bit more endeared to it. But yeah, it's it starts out kind of rough, and but it's really interesting. Like, there is like a wealth of special features on here that gives you a lot of really great context with this series. Like, this documentary is phenomenal. Like, this, it's a feature length documentary, and we love stuff like that. And I don't know, I just can't say enough good things. Like, I just think that like people like that won something like this, that's like an obscure 80s sort of British show. Maybe they grew up with it, maybe like me, they're just first discovering it. Yeah, really excellent. I mean, this, you have over 4 hours of special features. Like,
wow.
Steven doesn't just huck this stuff out. It looks really nice. I will say, some of the film elements probably were not looking their best, so it's not pristine by any means, but I think it is cleaned up as much as probably possible. Because like, I've never really had an issue with like Severin transfers. I think they always kind of do the best that they can with the material that they have. I think that's what some people kind of don't understand, is like, you want to preserve this stuff, but sometimes the film elements are, maybe like almost at the point of not being able to save. So yeah, this is probably the best it's ever going to look. And again, it's just nice to have this all together, archived, really great features. I think if you kind of like stuff like Inside Number Nine, you kind of want to like, I think like this sort of is like the maybe like genesis of stuff like that. So
Yeah, that sounds really unique. So you've piqued my interest, even though I might be disturbed. So I
yeah,
guess we'll see how it goes.
it's something like even the second episode was like talking about dead babies and stuff, and you're just like, oh boy, like there was like a Russian roulette scene. Again, it's like you just have to like, I want to warn people because you really do kind of have to be in a certain mind. Like, I mean, for me, anyways, I have to be in a headspace to be able to like get into that. But yeah, it's very unique.
Okay. Interesting. Moving on to my next title. I have a pair of films from Cauldron Films coming up. The first of which is Convoy Busters, which is it's not like a completely revolutionary plot. I will just say. Here's the double-sided artwork here. So but it's still a pretty fun movie. It kind of fits pretty neatly into that like poliziati Italian crime drama that we've talked about at length on multiple episodes on here. But it's a fun one. It's about, like, of course, just like LA Wars, there's a rogue cop who's like kind of doing things his own way, and but this one he's punished by like being sent off to like kind of more of a not a remote village, but like kind of a more an off the beaten path village, and he's kind of still like trying to take down these like drug runners and like general criminals that are like doing stuff. Like there's some really interesting scenes of like the way that the drug runners are like using radio towers and like television programs to like send signals to one another, and the detectives trying to like figure out how they are like communicating and intercepting them and like beating them at their own game and all that kind of stuff. There's like some really fun detective work. There's like just like that don't give a shit like Italian detective attitude where he's just like beats someone down and then like shakes their hand and just be like, hey, like, all right, like just kind of like it's, I don't know, like the Italians, they just have like in their movies at least, like they just have like this kind of swagger when it comes to like their crime films. Like they just like they always just kind of seem like a little bit fed up, but like a little over it is like just kind of like, hey, like yeah, like we need to do this. I don't know, just the way they act is just it amuses me. But it's a lot of fun. I love these Poliziati movies, and this one, like I said, it's not revolutionizing the genre, but it's a fun one. And this release is pretty good. It comes from a new 2K restoration. It looks pretty good. I still see some limitations to the transfer, but overall, it's a pretty solid representation. There is the original Italian and an English dub if you prefer. Don't know why, but if you do, it is there. And this one, like your Severin release, this one is packed with special features. So there's like a section for new special features and archival special features. The new special features has an audio commentary, and then like 4 or 5 new interviews and like slash like video essays, mostly concerning the star Maurizio Morelli, or the director Stelvio Massi. So usually it's like there's like something regarding them or the film or their place in Italian cinema. The archival section has about like 7 more interviews from like people who knew them, like directors that worked with them. There's like in both sections there's a interview with the son of the star, and you because the Maurizio Morelli, he passed away. I think tragically young, so you kind of like hear a little bit about this and kind of get impressions from people about like why he was such a bright spot of Italian cinema while he was around. And then you also just get a few other like trailers and like an optional version to see the opening credits in English, like that type of stuff, like just kind of rounding it out. But it's like really great special features, and like those interviews I usually run from like 10 to like 25 minutes long, so they're most of them are around the 20-minute range, so I appreciate that. Like there's some pretty lengthy interviews on here, so if you're a fan of Italian like Italian crime dramas, Convoy Busters, it's another fun one.
Nice.
It's not a star of the genre, but it's like a really good like steady hitter of the genre.
Nice. Yeah, and that's kind of a perfect segue, because I am going to be staying in Italy for now, with my next title, which is Alien from the Abyss. This also has an alternate title, Aliens from the Deep. When I looked it up on IMDb, that's how it came up. So, whatever. So here are the features. Yeah, so kind of like you were saying about your last movie, this definitely has that sort of like cheesy Italian flair. It does have a lot of the staples of the genre. I will say it is very slow. Unfortunately, it takes a while for the kind of like main alien to really get ramping up. And for a movie like this, it's not very long either. It's 91 minutes. So yeah, you kind of do feel the length of it a little bit. And it's about an hour into it, and then you really get into like the carnage. You get a cheesy alien, you get cheesy miniatures, obvious miniatures blowing up, which is my favorite. I love that. And as it's proudly stated, this is the first authorized home video release of this in the US. So yeah, Severance always got your back when it's like coming to these like weird, obscure like Euro films. And yeah, it's again, it sucks that the first act is very plotting, but you really do get into it, and I think it's ramps up kind of enough that you enjoy it, even though you kind of have to wait a little bit for the good stuff. But I mean, just look at that. I mean, doesn't that just look like some entertaining stuff? So yeah,
Here for it.
They did a great job. I think this is from a new 4K scan. It looks great. Again, I think they were working with like pretty good material here. We do get a little bit of like artifacts and a little bit of like maybe like color desaturation, but like for the most part, it looks really nice. Like especially when you're talking about something from like was this like 89, so like fairly old. And it's hard for me to say that because like that means that I'm old, and that can't be possible. So anyways, but no, it's a fun time. It's just, again, you have to sort of wait. You have to wade through this sort of like military sort of like versus these like Greenpeace activists, and we've seen that in a lot of other movies. This kind of gave me like Contamination vibes, only maybe not as entertaining. But it's fun. It's a very solid release. Again, I love that this has some really nice features. These aren't just dumped out, they look great. If you love cheesy Italian like horror, I think this is a must.
Yeah, pacing wise, that kind of reminded me of a film I talked about from Synapse maybe last year or maybe earlier this year. Time is weird. The creature from Black Lake. So that kind of like, it took a while for that creature to come out, but finally when it did, it was great. But I guess pacing wise, if I check out this film, I'll kind of like get in that headspace. I'm like, okay, I know what I'm getting into. I know when, like, don't expect carnage right away. So I hear you loud and clear. My next title, also from Cauldron Films, like I mentioned, is Shanghai Joe. And there are some issues with this, but not it's decent. This is an Italian version of like the East meets West concept. So it is about a Chinese man played by a Japanese man. um, uh, yeah, they talk about it in the special features, but so it's about a Chinese man who comes to the Old West. It's set in, I believe, the I'm not exactly sure the time period, but the Old West time period, back when they're like kind of developing the territories and all that type of stuff. But what this really kind of deals with is like a Chinese man coming to America and dealing with all of the racism that comes with that. But then ultimately kind of acting in like, it's almost like a like Clint Eastwood Man with No Name thing, where it's like he's like a silent badass who like jumps into action whenever like confronted, basically. I mean, it's not just Clint Eastwood who's done that. It's like all spaghetti westerns, it seems like, but that's the most popular cultural reference. But in this instance, whenever the hero kicks in action, he's doing martial arts, and there's a lot of really unexpectedly like great carnage in this, and like eyes being plucked out, and like all kinds of like bones being broken and stuff that I was not expecting. But I was like, this is great. Like you've seen like a lot of like really grisly stuff from spaghetti westerns, and this is just kind of more of like a Eastern inspired spaghetti western, and like with the Chinese central character. But it's a fun movie. Those cultural issues aside, just some of the racial slurs that are thrown at the main character, but that is the point. These are people who are intolerant and just like, but then there's people who realize like, oh no, this guy, he's a badass, we should like work with him, and like he's dope. So it's kind of productive. It is what it is. This is like, even at this time, which I believe is 73, it did what it could in terms of being progressive, but there's a lot of ways in which it fails. But this release is great. It comes from a 2K restoration. It comes with a 20-minute video essay, kind of just about the movie itself, and just kind of like the East meets West style, and how that kind of got adopted by like the Italians, and how it's portrayed and stuff. And then there's also a 9-minute interview with one of the performers, who kind of he retired like right after this movie. He's like an old man now, but he's kind of talking about his experiences on this movie. So there's also a commentary track as well. So some good special features, good presentation. If this sounds interesting to you, it's a good release from Cauldron Films. It's pretty standard but fun.
Nice. So my next title is this is gonna be my last Severin title, and it's a doozy, and we're sticking with aliens also. That is Extraterrestrial Visitors, but people probably will know this more by its other name, Pod People. So this was a very, very famous Mystery Science Theater episode. It's much beloved. It has the alternate Pod People opening credits, which I'm more familiar with, because I've only ever seen this. I've seen this multiple times, but I've seen the Mystery Science Theater version of it. I haven't seen like the just regular like presentation.
Okay. Good.
Huh?
Well?
It stinks. Oh.
And also, this, as touted on the back, is a worldwide Blu-ray premiere of the director's cut. Now, I'm not familiar with the regular cut versus the director's cut. If I could try to, like, I'll see if I can find a video on breaking that down or anything. But yeah, this is a really nice release. So again, here's the front. We do have some nice extras. I mean, it took me a little while to get through these, but like it was a lot of fun. And I don't know, one of the really cool selling points is you get the CD soundtrack, and I think that this is a pretty cool score. It's very like synthy, it's very like 80s, and it's just as cheesy as the movie. So it was fun actually seeing it without like the MST3K commentary track going on. And was it as fun without the robots? No, but it's cheesy, it's very sincere, but it's just a really fun wacky knockoff of ET. And yeah, it's very strange because it starts out sort of like, again, as a kids movie, but then the movie sort of progresses into like not quite slasher territory, but like kind of like it. It's I almost thought like it would make maybe like a Severance Kids release, but it's a little graphic. It's not carnage galore like you were just talking about, but like, it's probably a little bit too rough for maybe like that label. But yeah, it's fun. It's a weird movie. It's because of a certain president, it's no longer fun to talk about Trumpy. But Trumpy is this little guy, and he will like magically make shit in your room.
Trumpy, you can do stupid things.
Fly around, he'll play with the Simon, he will be annoying and eat everything in sight. It's me. But yeah.
You're Trumpy?
I was very jealous because like it just wasn't in my budget, but there is I don't know if there still is. I can link if it's still available, I'll link in the description. But there's a bundle where you can get a stuffed Trumpy plush. And I never wanted anything more in my life. It is adorable. But yeah, it's not good, but it's fun. I mean, I know that's what we were talking about, like so bad it's good or so bad it's enjoyable. I mean, this movie always has something going on. I think maybe just too much. Like it almost feels like a few different movies just crammed in, and then sort of like the remnants of that made into a plot. But yeah, it's fun. It's stupid. I think if you're a big fan of the Mystery Science Theater episode, you should check it out.
It stinks.
I do want to stress that this does not have the MST3K episode on there because that's owned by Shout Factory. So this is Severance. So yeah, if you were hoping that would maybe be an extra, it is not, unfortunately, but I still think that this is an amazing release. You were talking about long interviews. This has a 101-minute segment about like the making of, and yeah, it's pretty incredible. And then you get like a thing with the composer, and again, it's awesome because you get the soundtrack, so you get to hear from the composer, and then you can pop on the CD. So I love that. This looks great. Again, I've only seen like oh my gosh, can't talk, the really crappy version that Mystery Science Theater would play. So just seeing it like say if this is a 4K. Yeah, it's a 4K scan from the 35 millimeter negative, and so just watching it all cleaned up was like, wow, is pretty awesome. Yeah, weird, stupid. Trumpy's adorable. I wish I could get that Trumpy plush. I hope eventually they do, like you can just buy that standalone, because I want that really bad. But anyways, it's a fun release. If you want a weird alien double feature, you can, there you go. So yeah.
Awesome. My next title is from Scorpion Releasing and MBD Entertainment, and that is The Killing Box. I believe it has an alternative title as The Gray Soldier. And I was lured in by the presence of just a really great cast. The main cast members are Corbin Burnson, who I love the most from Psych, but he's been in a ton of great movies. Adrian Pastar and Martin Sheen. But then there's also a ton of other great people. Just to name, there's Ray Wise. There is Matt LeBlanc from Friends, David Arquette, Billy Bob Thornton, and it's directed by George Hickenlooper, who did Heart of Darkness. So all of this together, I was like, ooh, I got to check this one out. But unfortunately, I did not find this to be a really great movie. The premise is really fun. It's set during kind of like the Civil War times, but it also has elements of like a kind of like a zombie slash ghostly story, mostly zombie-ish story. It's about like some Confederate soldiers who are up against some Confederate soldiers who may or may not be undead. And there's just like kind of a lot of like mystery around what is going on, especially during this time. There's like not a lot of like knowledge about like paranormal stuff. So it's just kind of like these soldiers are out just kind of like deteriorating with this knowledge of like something is wrong in this world and all that type of stuff. But it doesn't really seem to like go anywhere particularly interesting with it. Like Civil War zombies, sign me up, but like it just kind of dull, unfortunately. I love the ensemble, but they aren't given enough to do. The script is just kind of meandering. It didn't really work for me, and I wish it did. It's had such promise for me, but I don't know if there's much more to say. Like it's just kind of boring, and like the production value, it's not as it felt like a TV movie, honestly, and that kind of surprised me. So yeah, I wish it was better. This release, it doesn't. It looks fine. They probably weren't working with like the best elements, but this comes from a 2020 HD master, and it looks passable. Not great, but fine. And all it has is trailers, so you don't get any additional context for this movie. So, The Killing Box. Stream it somewhere to see if like this works better for you, but I wouldn't really recommend it as a blind buy. It's not the safest.
Yeah, so it sounds like that is a killing the Killing Box. So it sounds like that's just just keep that in the box maybe.
Yeah.
So my final title, I wanted to just like finish at least with mine really strong. And you can't kind of get stronger than Creed. So this is Creed 3. Here's the back. So there's nothing really exciting inside. There is a digital copy that will be in yours if you order this. But yeah, so I recently did a really great deep dive into the Rocky movies. And then after that, I kind of picked it up trying to check out the Creed movies. And, this was kind of fun rounding out the Creed trilogy. And I think it is such a solid next chapter in this story. Like, it in a lot of ways it reminds me of Rocky 2, and I think that parallel is probably maybe on some level at least like intentional. It sort of parallels in how in Rocky 2 we really see his home life more, things developing with his relationships and his kid, and we get that with Creed. We see his home life. He's taking a step back from boxing. He's more of a promoter now. His wife has taken a step back from singing, and she's also like more of a manager. And then he's kind of more or less forced out of retirement, and he's also forced to face his past when his old friend like comes back. And yeah, it's great. There's a lot of great emotional stakes. I think that, you know, Michael B. Jordan is great. Jonathan Majors is also great. It's kind of unfortunate that the allegations with him, allegedly, supposedly, are going on with him. But I don't know. Like it's this movie. I won't spoil the ending, but I will say that it kind of does a smart thing where, like, it's like, okay, I see where they're going with it. Like there's a couple of different places they could take it. Like it seemed to be setting up maybe Creed's daughter, maybe doing a flash forward where she's older and she's boxing, and I don't know. Or again, depending on what they're doing with Jonathan Majors, if he could maybe come back as like a friend kind of role, sort of like similar how in Rocky 3, you know, the enemies become like friends. Again, if we're kind of mirroring that a little bit. But oh gosh, this was so good. And I think the stuff that they do with the final fight is really interesting because it's not just like point the camera and watch these guys fight it out, which that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a great way to do it. But they kind of do it in a way that's a little bit more like artsy without being too like pretentious, if that makes sense. So I really appreciated that. Again, I think the themes of like, you know, not forgetting where you come from, being like authentic to yourself, and also kind of like meditating on like why you're doing this in the first place. Again, this was something that, you know, you saw in like Rocky 2 and 3, where it was like, okay, I don't need to fight anymore, but what am I doing? Like what purpose do I have? So I think that's all really great material to mine, and I think they do a great job at it, at like getting every emotional weight out of questions like that. So it's great. I love it. I'm so okay. If you're wondering if you can get a all three movies on 4K in one set, unfortunately, that's not in the cards at this point. Now, Warner Brothers is putting out a trilogy on Blu-ray, which I will also link in the description if you don't own these and want to just own them all. But again, if you want them all on 4K, unfortunately, that's not in the cards. But we were talking a little bit about this before we started recording, and I think, you know, we both kind of feel like they're probably gearing up for another box set, 4K set. So I'm not saying don't buy this, but if you are kind of waiting for like a trilogy in 4K, you might want to wait. But they do have a Blu-ray trilogy if you just want them all and you don't necessarily, it doesn't matter if it's 4K or not. These are newer movies. They're going to look really nice on Blu-ray. I think they look better in 4K, but your mileage may vary. And I do appreciate the fact that we do have some nice, you know, featurettes, some deleted scenes. You know, I am such a sucker for a commentary track, which I wish they had, but they don't. But yeah, it's a very great release. It's a fantastic movie. So yeah, I think that it's certainly worth picking up. And again, you know, hopefully we'll get like a whole like trilogy on 4K in one set.
Yeah, for sure. That's one I'm really excited to check out, just especially since I've been a long time fan of Michael B. Jordan. I want to see how he is as a director. It seems like he's very good, so from what you were saying. So I was a little bit skeptical whenever I heard he was taking over the directing duties, but here it sounds like he's knocked it out of the park. So good for him.
I think this is my favorite in the Creed series so far. So
that's promising. I like that. My final title, I'm heading over to the world of television. It's a show that I've talked about at least a handful of times on here. And that is Yellowstone Season 5, Part 1. Part 1, like splitting up seasons, because you got to get the most out of things. So despite being only Part 1, this is still a 4-disc set because this is one of the few shows where they don't really skimp on special features, which is pretty cool. So there's 8 episodes on here. There's 1 disc with 2 episodes, 1 disc with 3 episodes, and another disc with 3 episodes, I believe. So yeah, 8. And then 1 whole disc for special features. Yes, they have so many special features. They have a whole disc dedicated to it, along with some special features sprinkled in on the other 3 as well. So I've talked about this show before, so I'm not gonna like do a deep dive into like all the complex character dynamics and all that type of stuff. I've spoken about it, and fans who are just like hear me talking about season 5 probably aren't going to just like jump into season 5. They'll start from the beginning. But for this season in particular, I will say it is not the strongest. It's not terrible, but we're getting to a point in this show where it does seem to be like Taylor Sheridan, who created this series, like he also has like he did like the 1883. He also has Mayor of Kingstown going on. Then he has Tulsa King going on, all on Paramount Plus. And it seems like maybe his attention is a little bit too divided. The storylines on here kind of feel very familiar if you've seen this show before. There's just like recurring themes and stuff that with the Dutton family and the patriarch played by Kevin Costner here. He's in a new position in this part of the season, but it's kind of like a new setting but same issues type of thing. Like it's just like him trying to preserve like this way of life that his family has established and like protect the land and all stuff, and trying to fight off like other like nefarious groups. Like how nefarious are they? You have to watch to find out. But it's just like a lot of like characters having their like own set dramatic arcs that they've kind of flirted with before or outright tackled before, and then just kind of like doing the same stuff again. There's some new stuff here and there, and those are like probably some of the more interesting parts. And they keep bringing on performers into this show, like Jackie Weaver, who you're like, ooh, I love this performer, I'm glad they're here, but you just want the material to be a little bit more exciting and stuff. And like especially hearing that like Kevin Costner is probably going to lead the show in the near future, from what I heard reports of. I'm a little unsure about the future of this show. I want it to be good. It's like it's a big audience hit. It's critically it's been a little bit slower to get to that reception. It's finally got like a SAG ensemble nom this last year and everything, and people are coming to it critically as well. But then they delivered this that's kind of like keeps things steady instead of like elevating it and keeping it exciting. And if you're a fan of the show, you'll have a decent time, but you start to want more from this, and you always wonder where they're going and if they have a plan to like really shake things up in a meaningful way. But still good, just they need to freshen it up a little bit. So Yellowstone, it has a ton of special features. Pretty much every episode has like a little deep dive into it. There's making a featurette. There's various interviews, all kinds of like featurettes that just like really help understand how they built this world and what they were going for this season or half a season. Whether or not they accomplished it is up to the viewer to decide, but they were going for it, and that's what they did. But this is a really good set for fans. Yeah, if you're a fan, I don't like, if you're a completist like me, you're not just going to stop collecting it. So it's still a good presentation. It's just, I wish a show kick it up a notch.
Yeah, that is one show that I have like no, I've never seen any of them. Like I just I'm more like, give me Yellow Jackets.
You got Yellow Jackets, you're all good.
But yeah, no, that's a shame though. You were saying that it's not quite the quality that it was. But I like Kevin Costner. I think he like would be the one draw, I think, if to finally sort of check it out. But I guess that kind of does it for our show this week. As always, we appreciate any likes, comments. It's really nice to see like engagement up lately. It seems like y'all are some of y'all are coming back, which is great. We love that. And as always, thank you for hanging out with us.